Hey everyone, so in this video we're going to see how I did these 4 openings that we see in this temple structure. And even though it seems simple, but I'm actually going to show you how I used different colors to combine with these browns in order to make these very interesting effects. Alright, so right now we are seeing some light brown and some dark browns that are being done, but we are going to make sure that we have other colors that are being added, which I will show it to you later. And so right now, just trying to do these browns that will make up the majority of this temple. So the thing is, if we only use brown for this temple, then sometimes it can get a little bit boring because there's only so much browns that we can use, and so it is important for us to combine with different colors. And this, we can take advantage of this because in the original photo we have some some reds that make up the words on the wall, some slightly different kinds of colors, and so by exaggerating these very subtle tones, by adding like blues and purples and orange, all these colors will actually combine very well with the brown. And so right now I'm just using that small little brush to paint, to use the dry brush technique to paint the temple structure right there, to paint some of the cracks and the lines. Right, so I'm just using that that brush. So again, as I said earlier, I used light blue to add more interest to the walls, and this light blue is being right now combined with the rest of the browns, and these browns are made up of light browns and dark browns, and of course that black line over there. So all these different kinds of things that are going on, all these different kinds of interesting features that are being added right now are being combined together. So you can see a little bit of that yellow right there above that blue, and so I'm just going to combine that blue with more brown at the top. So this will be painted around those details, and those details will be left white. So by leaving white those details, that will make it possible for us to add in the red color later on for the writings on the wall. And so we have these browns and these very light browns and these yellows, and all these light browns are being combined now with the rest of the writings on the wall. Being combined with the rest of the browns, and so leaving out some of the space for those red spots that will be painted on later. Right, so later on you'll know what I'm actually saying when I actually do those details right there. So just making sure that we have different sections, different kinds of browns. We have some light browns, dark browns. Again, using the small brush, just making sure everything is filled, and we will do all those patterns later. So right now I'm just using that larger brush to do the shadow that is formed because of the the opening, this pattern right there at the top. So this arch kind of pattern forms the shadow, and I'm using dark brown to paint this shadow in. So I'm just using this dark color like black to actually paint the side. And so I'm just very quickly going to make sure that we have all these different kinds of browns, again using that dark brown to do that pattern right there in the middle. And I'm just going to use that small brush to touch up a little bit. Okay, so I used red to show the words written on the wall. Right, so this is the red words that I'm talking about, and these are some of the marks, some of the patterns that you are seeing, and just using that small brush to kind of like make these patterns come alive by using that red. So this cadmium red is really good when you're trying to highlight something, because this hue is really bright and it's like kind of bright red, but of course we can tone it down with brown. So you see right now I'm actually adding some brown to the red, and that will really help to tone it down. And we are just going to very quickly make sure that we have all these different kinds of reds that also make up the words, and these words are being made into patterns. So these are more of like patterns that are on the wall instead of anything that most of us wouldn't be able to read wouldn't be able to understand what it actually means, but we are just making use of these patterns to make sure that we have these very interesting effects on the walls, and not just with light browns and dark browns. Okay, so here you see that we have some blues, light blues at the bottom. We have some reds. So all these blues and reds actually add more interest to the wall itself. If not, this wall will be just purely brown, and although we had a lot of techniques to make up these browns, but that can also become boring if there is too much browns. And so these additional colors actually give us a very refreshing kind of tick. When we look at the entire painting, we will see all these reds and blues and other colors that will also stand out because of their differences in hue. Right, so now I'm just painting the middle part right there, the pillars. So with all these pillars, again, we want to leave white the lines in the middle. We also want to make sure that we have all these parts that are being left white, so that we will fill them in later. And then we have all these lines, and all these lines actually make up the right hand side of the wall. And so again, using that light blue, and again using that yellow and some reds and some orange, that will help us to have all these different colors again at the extreme right hand side, this opening right there. Similar to what I just mentioned earlier, we have all these different kinds of blues and yellows and orange. Okay, just repeating the same process, and again we see all these bright colors that give us a lot of very nice effects. So using the larger brush, I'm just trying to make sure that we have all these shadows, and just making sure that we have this darker kind of strokes, okay, that make up the pillars, and just painting around it. And again, as I mentioned earlier, leaving white will allow us to add in lighter colors later on, which is right now. We have all these lighter browns that are being added, and this will really show all these very intricate details that we are seeing right now that's being added to the structure right here. Okay, so very quickly, I'm just going to make sure that we have all these different colors. So right now we are moving on to the left hand side. Again, these two openings right here, okay, these two areas. Again, going to repeat the same process, because we have this small brush that is actually helping us to make all these patterns and all these kinds of strokes, all these very quick strokes that will make up all these different kinds of things that you see that's going on. So again, I just want to use the small brush to repeat the same process. So just by painting the rest of the wall with some orange and brown. So right now we have some orange right there. This cadmium orange is being combined with the burnt sienna to make it look more orangey. And so we have all these different kinds of dry brush techniques that we are using to make sure that we have all these different kinds of paint that is being added. Again, we are using this black. Okay, so this black is being added to the wall that makes up the darker part. So again, this dry brush, which means that we have a lot of this paint but very little water. So you can see I'm actually directly applying the paint onto the wall right there. So that is a very good way to paint all these rustic old walls that require just dry paint and a lot of this amazing kind of colors that will make up this changing kinds of colors that you're seeing. So I use different tones of brown to show variations on the wall, and of course using this purple, just combining this purple right there with the browns. Again, as I mentioned earlier on, these changing tones of brown are what attracts the viewer And right now I'm also using the white color pencil to add in some horizontal strokes, to add in even more textures and more interest. Right, so you see all these very amazing kinds of ways that I actually use to depict all these walls just by using watercolor and a color pencil itself to help me can really help you to paint walls just by applying these tips, you know, that I'm just showing you right now with, you know, again the light blue, so this cerulean blue, and combining it with the yellows and the orange and the browns. So all these things will really give you a very nice wall, you know, with all these changing browns as well, lighter browns, darker browns. And of course, this is what makes the whole wall look very interesting. It is actually an exaggeration of the original photo itself, but we are adding all these amazing details as best as we can to add all these amazing, you know, features to it. So I use dark brown and black to paint the shadows. Again, as I've showed you earlier, just by using black alone is not enough. We have to use dark brown because it will show the kind of a base color that actually makes up the wall right there. So one very important advice is that we don't want to use just pure black for anything. So even though an object is black or an area is black, we can always make it more interesting by adding browns, by adding purples and blues and reds. So all these dark colors actually make the dark area more rich. Okay, so that is one advice that I can give you, and that is that we want to make sure that we have, you know, all these browns to make up dark colors rather than just a black. So I'm just using this this dark brown to complete the shadows right there. Again, you can see I left white some of the areas in the middle part, which we will fill in later because of the words, the writings on the wall. And I'm just going to very quickly make sure that we have all these dark strokes, dark brown strokes that are being added, right? So again, using that brush, I'm just going to very quickly complete this part. Okay, so I just added in some red. Okay, so I just used my brush and I just picked up some red from the palette, and I'm just adding some of these patterns. So don't worry if you cannot follow exactly, you know, the thing that you actually are seeing on a photo, because when we actually make these words into patterns, then we don't really have to follow. And you can see right now it's almost illegible, but we are making them into patterns, and so they fit in exactly into the wall very nicely. So we have all these different kinds of orange and browns and all these, you know, different things that are going on, and so we want to use the small brush to kind of like help us make sure we have all these details being covered. So just touching up on the shadows using that dark brown, again using that brush, just trying to complete the shadows, and we are almost done with this part of the painting. Again, using some blues. So we're just using that brush to help us to complete some of the textures, and then we will now move on to the doing of the pillars. So right now we have all these pillars, we have all these dark browns, we have all these, you know, areas where I actually use the brush again to leave out some white areas which we'll fill in later. So right now using different browns again to do all these pillars, and we are just going to very quickly make sure that we have these lighter colors that are being added later on. Okay, so using that small brush, just quickly adding in those black spots, okay, that you're seeing on the pillars right now. So using the white color pencil to help me with some of the details. Okay, adding in more details using the color pencil, and that will really help us to complete this part using all these amazing techniques. Hey everyone, it's KY Tom here. Thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed my video, please hit the like button and comment down below. Do consider to subscribe to my channel for more art videos. Check out the links on the description below to find out more about my art, and I hope to see you in the next one.